Hello! Alright, so today we're going to be doing the item shop for Lavender Town. When we start, you'll notice the floor is already there. That's just because I brought it over with a blueprint. So the first thing we're going to do is our doors in the middle, just to set where the entire room is going to be. So we dyed the doors white, the glass doors, and to make them look like double doors, we'll just do one reversed. So for the front, we're going to be using the same hardwood columns we used for the houses, but this time they're dyed white. So that's one of the little things that's going to tie the entire town together in terms of design. So we're going to be using, like with the house, certain parts of that infinite selection. So sometimes you will need to grab out certain parts from that column. If you want to do a long row, you can just do 2 high and then continue going all the way across. And because I'm using a blueprint, some of these will automatically become the correct piece. So from the doors, we want to go 5 on each side with the white wooden columns, and we're going to use a similar style again to what we used for the houses. So we want to have some very defined columns on either side, and we're going to be using the castle tiles, the carved and the plain painted blue. So do make sure you get a bunch of blue paint buckets and dye them up. So the next thing we want to do is put our carved tiles on. Now where I'm putting the red is where the dyed fountains will be. We're not going to put them in till last. So to complete the border, we want to do the carved blue tile and then a temporary tile. And then for the sides, we want to do 10 plain tiles, a carved tile and a temporary tile on either side, and then we're going to meet it up at the back just with the plain tiles again. So now we can go around and start doing some of the columns. So for the carved tile columns, we want to go up 3 of the carved tile and then 1 of the wooden floor dyed blue and then 3 more of the carved tile. And we want to do that for each of the columns around those temporary blocks. Like I said, the dyed fierce fountains will be the last thing we put in because they're a little bit more difficult to put in. So now that that's done, we have a basic shape, and you can see it kind of looks pretty similar to how the house started. So now we're going to put doors on top of these doors. They're not going to be functional just because it's a very high roofed room. We just want to make sure that the facade at the front isn't too plain. With the binoculars it's a little easier, but I was just trying to show you there, you'll just need a support if you don't have your binoculars to put them on. So now that we have done that, we can start adding a little bit more of a decoration to the front. So we're going to go ahead and do 2 rows of 4 extending out from the carved tiles. And then once we've done that, we want to go ahead and put our hardwood columns in, and we're just going to put them in all the way to the top of the roof and then an additional block. And so we'll do that on both sides, and then we're going to meet it in the middle, and this will be one of the points where you'll need to grab the bottom parts of the infinite stack. So we want to make sure it's got that nice design instead of being the plain parts. So now that we've got that done, we can continue on with the rest of the wall. We want to take the wooden floor pieces and just connect them where they had been marked on the pillars. And then just so it's a little bit different to the white windows, we're going to use 4 blue dyed windows for the ones connecting between the blue bits of wall. So I used the floor specifically instead of the wall because I wanted the panels of the wood to be going horizontally instead of vertically, because they're a strip. I think it looked a little bit more continuous. So once we've done that, we're just going to do 1 more cap on that pillar, and we'll have to just grab pieces individually again because we want to use just the top pieces all the way across. And you can see on either side we've just done 4 white dyed windows again. And once that's done, we're almost done with the front. We just want to fill in that little 1 block space with 4 more white windows. Again, we're just sort of doing lots of little sections here just so a square building like this looks a little bit more fancy than it actually is. And then another set of the top parts. I specifically used all of those because I think it fits in with that blue wooden wall. And now we can start with the carved pieces. So we want carved pieces just on the top of the white pillars. And then for the inside bits here, we're going to use the plain ones. Only because I really find the carved tiles beautiful, but for that reason, we don't want to overuse them. We want it to be a highlight when we notice the parts that are carved. We don't just want to go ahead and use everything, especially because part of the feature of the roof will be the carved tiles. So now we can go ahead and do the sides. Like the houses, we're going to make them identical. We don't want any particular part of these buildings to draw too much attention away from the overall design of the town. So we're going to go ahead and do columns of 3, 4 in on either side. And then in the middle two, we're going to do 2 lots of 3 white windows high. And so again, this just gives enough decoration interesting effect that it's interesting, but it's not going to be drawing away from all the other features. We are going to have a lot of decorations as well, so we don't want too much busy stuff going on. I'm already using a lot of these windows, which is creating a lot of lines and effects, so we want to keep the rest of those walls pretty simple. And so again, for continuity, we're going to continue and do that blue wooden floor all the way around. And on the top, we're going to do 2 layers of the bottom part of the column, and on top of that, the plain carved tile. That plain carved tile and the dyed blue wooden floor will go all the way around. Again, it's little things like this. A few bits of the building should have some continuity, not necessarily even to just look like they're constructed correctly in a game like this, but just to give it a better design feel overall. So just a quick tip, if you're following this along or dyeing anything, you should be using your paint buckets. If not, you're going to be wasting a lot of paint. So you can go ahead in your slime color extractor. It's not a slime, but it looks like a slime to me, and make paint buckets. That will let you do a row of 5 by 5 and 5 high, and you'll need to stand in the middle of it, and then you'll be able to dye all of that section and then just go and quickly big bash it all up. And so it's a quick way to get, say, I think it's up to about 120 of an item if you do it properly. So now the back wasn't in the blueprint, so it won't all light up like the previous part. What we're going to do here is in the dead center, back from the opposite side of where the doors are, we're going to do the 4 lots of white windows and a blue column on either side all the way to the top. We don't want it to look too different from the back, but we want it to be a little bit interesting. So here we'll do, just to follow on from the plain sides of the building, the 3 columns high. And the windows we've almost done. You can see like an opposite effect here, so windows at the front and plain at the back, and that's just so that you can see through in certain parts and it makes it a little bit more interesting. So because this isn't the blueprint, you can see that I've had to do, like, you'll have to and move the pieces individually, but we're going to have 2 lots of top ones at the top of that 4 window, and I've decided just to add a little bit more interesting effect and continuity. We've gone back and put 4 blue windows on the top, and that is pretty much the facade done, apart from those dyed fountains that we'll do last, so we're probably ready to move on to the roof. So this roof is a bit of a pain even with your buildnoculars. One of the functions that is a bit hard to control, you may have noticed with the buildnoculars, is trying to diagonally plane something. If you're not facing the right direction, it's pretty much impossible. So whether or not you have your buildnoculars, you're pretty much going to have to create a border like this to correctly go ahead and plane everything. So I'd suggest just going ahead and doing the border first. We'll get rid of that once we've done the rest of the roof. And then we want to do all the way around carved tiles, and this is very much going to be the centerpiece of our roof because we're not using actual roof tiles. So just go around and do the entire thing and then carve it in. And you could take the support away now, but you've still got to work on the roof, so you might as well just leave it till the end so that you don't fall off as much. the next thing we'll be doing is the hardwood columns. So always remember the top of the block is what's going to be visible if you diagonally plane it. So you'll need to put a block under, otherwise it won't stay there. So just go ahead and remove it before you start so you don't forget. And then it can be a little bit harder with this second row. You need to look up and sort of position yourself. But we'll have that square effect on top. So just like the one below, we just want to go ahead, do the whole thing, and then plane it down diagonally. And that is going to be what would usually be roof tiles. That's going to be what we've used here. So now we're going to do this cool Pokeball effect in the middle. I'm not going to lie, it kind of just was lucky that it exactly fit in. So if you've done the dimensions of this exactly the same, it'll work. Circles generally in this game just need to be about close to 10 by 10 to kind of look right. So we want to go ahead and put some columns in the corners. We will go ahead and make sure they're all chiseled half up, otherwise they look quite chunky from underneath, and it's a nicer effect when you're looking up to be able to see the Pokeball. It's a bit harder to actually see that shape if you haven't planed up those blocks. So once we've gone and done the 4 in, to create the Pokeball shape we want to do glass flooring in between each of those columns sticking out on the sides, but not on the front and the back. So on the front and the back, we just want to go ahead and do 3 coming out from each side, and then 2, and then 1. And we want to do that on all 4 sides, and you'll already be able to see that that's getting pretty close to a ball shape at that point. So once you've done that, use your whatever material you want to make the outline of the ball. I wanted something that wasn't going to be too sort of showy. I just wanted the shape itself to be what was sort of standing out. Ideally, I was originally hoping to place it somewhere where the sun would actually catch it and you could see it as a shadow, but that would have probably required a little bit too much moving around in the building. So once you have done that, you want to go around and just put 1 block connecting to all of those glass roofs, and now you should have a circle. Once you've done that, we're just going to do 1 line through the middle. Obviously it's not exactly equal, but especially with a Pokeball that's okay, because it's preferable to actually have a little notch in the top or the bottom to make it look more like an actual specific Pokeball. So once that's done, we're just going to go ahead and fill in all the gaps with roof, and then chisel all the blocks so they're half up, and get rid of that red support. Now that we have done all that, it is pretty much done. It's a deceptively simple building, like I said. It's just a lot of fancy things on the outside make it look complex. So now, to do the fountains, the one thing is they don't stack. So instead of doing them from the bottom up, we need to do them from the top down, which is what this pillar is for. So from the top, we need to go up. If you don't have your binoculars, you'll need to make a support like this. And we'll just need to put in 1, knock out 2 blocks, and put in 1. So we'll need to go and do that all the way around. It's a little bit easier with your binoculars, but it's pretty much exactly the same idea. I did try and play around to see if I could hide water somewhere to get them all spilling water out. I couldn't, but I might test that a little bit more for one of the waterside towns that I do. But that is it now for the build. The item shop is, like I said, probably one of the easy ones we're doing. The Pokemon Center was quite a struggle to get right. I'm hoping to condense that into something that is cohesive, but it took a lot of trial and error. I'll also hopefully soon have a video on terraforming, showing how to make some nice walls around your edges using blueprints so you don't have to build them up yourself. And I'm also going to do a video about decorating and picking colors soon as well. Obviously though, if there's anything you want to see, just let me know. I'm hoping by the time I put this up, I've got the island all available for you guys to see. Thanks.